My landlord asked me how chemo was going, but I don't have cancer. I stared at him in complete confusion. Chemo? The landlord looked concerned and said, your husband told me about the breast cancer. I know you're going to beat it. He added that was why he hadn't been pushing about rent. My husband Miles was coming up with groceries and his face went white when he saw us talking. He quickly guided me away from the landlord, and I managed to say I needed to rest. I confronted Miles immediately, but he just set down the groceries slowly, not meeting my eyes, and admitted he hadn't paid rent in 6 months. He'd told the landlord I had cancer, and we needed the money for treatment. 6 months at $2,000 a month meant $12,000 that should have gone to rent. My mind raced back through all the fake receipts he'd shown me that rent was paid. When I demanded to know where the money went, he admitted he'd lost it gambling, thinking he could triple it for a house down payment. The casino charges he'd claimed were fraud, the weekend construction jobs that paid cash, the nights coming home at 4 in the morning claiming he was helping his brother, all lies covering his addiction. I made Miles show me everything on his phone, and the truth was worse than just the rent money. Our savings account that had held $30,000 for our future was completely empty. The emergency fund we'd spent 3 years building was gone, and the checking account had $17 left. $73,000 total, gambled away while I'd been working double shifts as a nurse, picking up overtime every week, skipping meals to save money because he said we needed to be careful with spending. The landlord had lost his wife to cancer 3 years ago, which explained why he hadn't pushed for money when Miles told him I was dying. Miles had weaponized a widower's grief to fund his gambling addiction, using the man's personal tragedy as a tool for manipulation. He told his entire family I had cancer too, which explained his mother's recent tears during phone calls, his sister dropping off casseroles every week, his brother's sudden offers to loan us money. His co-workers had sent a care package last month and taken up a collection for my medical expenses that Miles had cashed for $500. People who could barely afford their own bills had contributed thinking they were helping a dying woman. He'd created elaborate fiction about treatment schedules, about insurance not covering experimental drugs, about me being too proud to ask for help, all carefully crafted to explain why we were suddenly broke without revealing his gambling. The worst part was he'd used breast cancer, the disease that killed my mother 5 years ago, as his cover story to everyone who asked. He knew what that disease meant to me, how I'd watched her waste away, and he'd turned it into a convenient lie. Now the landlord would want his $12,000, or he'd evict us within 30 days, and Miles had already thought of a solution. He begged me to tell the landlord the treatment worked, that I was in remission, but we still needed time to recover financially from the medical bills. He wanted me to extend his lie, to look our grieving landlord in the face and pretend I'd survived the same cancer that killed his wife. He said the landlord would give us more time if he thought I was recovering, that Miles could get a loan from his parents by saying it was for follow-up care, still using the cancer lie to manipulate everyone's sympathy even after being caught. I stood up and looked around our apartment that we'd certainly lose. 3 years of marriage and building a life together all gambled away at blackjack tables while I thought we were saving for our future, for kids, for something real. Miles followed me to the bedroom, reminding me I had to decide what to tell the landlord, who would definitely ask about my treatment again. If I told the truth, we'd be evicted immediately with nowhere to go and no money for a deposit anywhere else. But if I played along with the cancer lie, just for a few months, Miles swore he could fix everything through loans and getting help for his gambling addiction that he was finally admitting existed. I thought about the landlord's sympathetic face, how he'd probably been remembering his wife's final days when he gave us grace on the rent, how he'd left flowers at our door last month with a note about staying strong through the hard times. The eviction would destroy my credit and make it impossible to rent anywhere decent for years, but lying to a widower about having the disease that killed his wife felt like the worst kind of cruelty imaginable. What are you going to tell him? Miles asked. Full story on the channel below.